when you're considering which level of voting software you need to work with your CLiKAPAD keypads, you might find this table slightly overwhelming and perhaps not understand what all of the options are. So I'm just going to run through what the difference is between the three levels that are available so that you can better determine which one might suit you. So all new systems include the essential level software. Anybody that has professional or matrix also gets all the functionality that's in essential. So where you see the ticks, that's a function that is included in that level, and if there's no tick, then it's not included in that level. Essential is something that everybody needs. The voting software doesn't function without the ppvote voting software being installed. The software is a PowerPoint add-in, so it's not a separate program that you need to run. It's just an add-in that you install in order to get the voting menu in your PowerPoint. Essential will handle your multiple choice voting and things like setting up and testing your keypads. Then you can move to professional and matrix if you've got more advanced things that you need to do. Professional is included for anybody that has a maintenance agreement. So the key reason to have the maintenance agreement for the majority of users is to get that upgraded functionality and also to have the ability to vote on internet enabled devices. What I mean by that is if you're running a hybrid meeting, so perhaps you've got most of the people in the room, but then you've got some people joining over Teams or Zoom, and you want them to be able to vote, they obviously won't have a keypad device, but they could vote on their mobile phone or on their laptop, so they could just have another window open to use as their voting keypad. So the maintenance agreement comes with some coaching from us, the online voting, and all these extra ticks that you can see. If you're just doing multiple choice, so do you think it's 1, 2, 3 or 4, show a result straight away and then keep a copy of that data for yourself afterwards, Essential is going to do all of that for you. If you're looking to do a little bit more with your data, you might need professional, so we'll have a look at that. Matrix is the most sophisticated and includes all of the functionality of professional and essential. It was written actually with risk in mind, so Matrix isn't right for the majority of our customers, but is ideal for those that are running risk workshops, because what Matrix will do is take the data and it will plot what we call a heat map. So if we had a list of risks, for example, and we wanted to rate those against impact and likelihood and perhaps control effectiveness or velocity, we can then put that onto an XY chart. So if that's not what you're doing, that's at least one you can count out. So I think for most people, it's going to be a question of, do you need essential or do you need professional? If you're a brand new customer, bear in mind that if you have the onboarding package, that includes 1 year of maintenance. So that is 1 year of online voting and professional functionality. So you'll get all of the things that you can see ticked here. And at the end of the year, you can decide whether to renew that maintenance or whether you're happy with just what's in this pink column, in which case there's no obligation to spend anything else because your essential license is permanent, you own it, so you can use that forever without paying any more fees. So let's have a quick look at what some of these missing ticks are so that you can see whether essential is going to cover everything for you. Auto display of keypads that have not voted. So what we mean by that is, let's say you've got 30 people in the room, so you're expecting 30 votes, but your vote counter on screen shows that only 27 of them have voted. What you can do is press the letter K on your keyboard and that will pop up which keypad numbers haven't voted. So perhaps those three are keypads 7, 9 and 12. It will say that on screen, prompting those particular voters to cast their vote, or perhaps tell you they're not planning to vote, in which case you can move on. With the professional level software, you can have that pop up automatically. So as soon as it gets to 27 votes received, it will show the last 3, or you could set it that you want to show the last 10 yet to vote, for example. That's what the auto display will do for you. If you're moving at quite a fast pace and if it's essential that everybody votes on every question, this can be a really useful function to have on. Auto close on percentage of respondents will close the vote once everybody has voted. So again, it's going to help you move a little bit faster because it's not waiting for you to close the vote and move on. If you've told it there are 12 people voting, it gets 12 votes, it closes and displays the graph for you. Then in the next section, most of the question creation is obviously ticked for all levels. Import questions to PowerPoint is not. I will be honest with you and say this is not a function that we find very many people use. What that will do is you can have all of your questions typed out in a text file, import it, and it will create a slide for every question. That's not included with Essential, it is with Professional. Named participants. This is where instead of your data export to Excel showing keypad numbers, it will show the names of the voter. So you can set up what we call a participant list that's just saved in Excel, where you note down which keypad was given to which individual, and that's what's going to show on your data export. And it's also what's going to show when you run a quiz. So if we have a quiz with a winner, instead of it coming up saying the winner is keypad 72, it will come up saying the winner is and the name of the person. So quite a nice touch, but not so relevant if you're not running quizzes. And again, in the quiz section, weighted questions. So this is where you give more points for difficult questions than easy questions, perhaps. So you might say an easy question is worth 1 point, but a difficult question is worth 3. That's what weighted questions is all about. Manually assigning teams. We can have individual winners like I've just described, but we can also put people into groups or teams. So if we set a team up, let's say the people on table 1 we want to put into team 1 and the people on table 2 into team 2. We can assign people to teams by asking a question. But of course, you've only got up to 10 on your keypad. So if you had 15 tables, that would become a problem getting them into a team. So you'd have to ask the question multiple times in order to cover the number of teams. Manually assigning teams means if you've got 10 seats at every table, you can tell the system in advance keypads 1 to 10 are going to be in team 1 and 11 to 20 are going to be in team 2 and so forth. So again, very useful for running a team quiz. Demographics and reshows. So rather than teams, we can split people into demographic groups. So that might be which region are you from, for example. And then we can split all of the data according to the regions that the different people are from. So that is another thing that you can set up from a vote, just like you can set up teams from a vote. So I can ask you what region you're from, you press 1 for north, 2 for south, and so forth. But we can also assign them by keypad number. So if we know who we're giving the devices to, instead of asking them those demographic questions, which you can have multiples of, doesn't have to be a single demographic, you could assign all of those in advance, but only if you've got Professional or Matrix, not in Essential. And that leads into reshow charts. When we talk about reshows, what we mean is reshowing the result from an earlier vote. So we can ask a question, how happy are you in your work, for example, and then we could show more than one chart. So we can show overall, this is how people voted, but this is how the people in the sales department voted versus the people in the marketing department, and so on, based on the demographics that we've set up. Reshow multiple different charts on one slide. What that means is I could ask 4 different questions, and before I reveal how they answered any of those, I could finish my set of 4. So if I think the way that people respond to question 1 might affect the way they vote on question 2, I might choose to hold back those results so people aren't swaying each other. So I ask all 4 questions, and at the end of that I show a single slide that has all 4 graphs plotted on the one slide. Again, you're going to need Professional for that. The way that you would handle that within Essential is you would need to show the reshows each one at a time. So one slide for each of the 4 votes. So there is a way around it, but it's perhaps not quite as slick if that's something that you're doing regularly. So last one here, historic and merged data. This is not relevant for the essential and professional users, so we won't focus on that now. Historic data is benchmarks and things for people's risk assessments. So I'm going to move past that one and we'll go down to the next section, which is vote types. So again, your standard voting types you can do in all 3 software levels. But when you come to doing things like choosing a top 3 from a list, so instead of the standard vote where you say, is it 1, 2, 3 or 4, an example might be that we say, here are 10 employee benefits, which 3 are most important to you. So that is something that comes in the professional level, but isn't possible with the essential level. Which leads into the second part. You can weight those. So you can give a higher weighting to their first choice than you give to their second choice, but of course you can't do that in essential because that vote type is not available. Ratings scales are where you take a list of items and you vote on them all on one slide. So I might say, how much do you enjoy the following? And then the first item might be one area of work and the next item is another area of work, and we vote on all of those on the same scale. So how much do you enjoy this on a scale of 1 to 5, where 1 is not at all and 5 is this is my favorite area of the business. And we would vote on all of the items, and then the software will generate an average score for each of those items, so we can compare those all side by side on one slide. So again, not something you can do in essential. This whole section is to do with the way your votes run and what shows on your keypad. In most cases, everything's ticked. So again, we're going to concentrate on the unticked. Abstain key. For things like training, probably not relevant. If you're running an AGM, very relevant. So what this means is that we can use the 0 key to say that we do not want to vote on an item. So it won't affect the percentage result, but it will log the fact that you didn't just not hear the question or your vote didn't come through. You're actively choosing not to vote and it becomes part of the count. So for example, if we had 30 people in the room and we asked them to vote on a particular motion and we said vote 1 for yes or 2 for no, to abstain, press 0. If 10 of them said yes, 10 of them said no, and 10 of them press 0 to abstain, that would be a 50-50 result, which is really important in the sort of legal meeting area, because if we didn't use abstain and we had just a standard vote like you would use in the essential level where we say 1 for yes, 2 for no, and 3 for abstain, if 10 people voted for each in that scenario, that would actually give 33.3% to each of the options, which wouldn't be correct in an AGM. Confirmation only relates to the keypad device itself. So at the top right, there's an LED that shows the voter the number of the vote that they've submitted. So I press 3, it lights up with a 3. If you need to be more confidential than that, so perhaps it's an exam, confirmation only will simply light the centre bar of the LED so the voter can see that the keypad is active and it's sent to vote, but the person next to them can't see what they chose. Moving on to results. Export to Excel is really important to most users of the voting software, and it's included across all 3 levels. Merging data is not available in Essential, and what we mean by merging data is, let's say we want to ask the same set of questions to 3 different groups of people at different times. What we can do at the end is take those 3 presentations, merge them together to create one data set that includes all of the people across all of the 3 sessions. So you'll have both things. You'll have the session data for each one, but you'll also have that big data pool that covers everybody. Manual and benchmark data is related to matrix again. So this is looking at how people voted last time, for example, to see movement of particular risks. So we won't focus on that one. Named keypads for results and keypad weighting. This comes back to the participant list that I mentioned previously. So if you need to know who's got what keypad, you might also need to weight them. So that would be most likely again an AGM scenario. So a larger shareholder would have a greater weighting. So if I had a weighting of 5 and my colleague had a weighting of 10, every time I vote, it's worth 5 votes, but every time they vote, it's worth 10. And maybe there are other people who just have 1 vote. So you can set your own numeric value there. Very important again for AGMs, not important for people having a bit of fun at conference, gathering opinions, or running training. Workshop features we're not going to go into because again that all relates to the risk processing tool matrix. So it's not relevant for anybody that's trying to make their choice between essential and professional. I hope that that's been clear, but if you do still have questions, if any of that didn't make sense to you, or you want to give us your specific use case and get some guidance on which software level to get, please do get in touch with us by email and we'll be very, very happy to help you. But I think the key thing to remember is as a new user, you will either be choosing between just having the essential software with no assistance from us at all, which we don't advise if you've never used the system before, but perhaps you've used the system at a previous job and you already know what you're doing and you know you only need essential. With most new users, we recommend the onboarding package, which will mean that we give you some one-to-one coaching over Microsoft Teams. So we're not just going to send you a video, we're going to answer your specific questions and work with your scenarios. And you would then also get the professional level functionality, including the remote voting, and you'd get support from our team. So you can email us your presentation and ask for help with a slide that you were having trouble getting to look good, for example, or you might just want to chat something through to make sure you've understood it. That's all part of your onboarding. So for brand new users to the system, that's the way to go. For people that have had the system for a year and they're deciding on maintenance, again, you can have a team session with us at the beginning of the maintenance agreement to upskill yourself or run a refresher, or perhaps you've got a colleague that's just started and you want us to train them. So that would be a part of it. But again, the biggest thing would be the software level that you're going to get by having that maintenance. Anyway, we'll be happy to hear from you if you'd like to know more.